Yo, guys, what is going on? My name is Tyler. I'm part of the FF Mediators here on the Face Off Sports Network. We're back with my week 3 top 24 tight end rankings and streamers video for the week. So, without further ado, we are going to hop into it here. We're going to look at my tier 1, or the guys that I consider the elite of the elite at this point in the season. Let's flash up our graphic here. As you can see, Trey McBride holds our top spot as he did last week, followed by Brock Bowers. And then there's a new name here. Yes, I have Tucker Kraft up in my tier 1 this week. The tight end one on the season as well as last week. He has come through in a huge way for the Green Bay Packers. He finished last week with 124 receiving yards, 7 catches, and a touchdown. And he has been the stable force in the Packers offense. Not to mention, Jaden Reed is now out with a fractured collarbone. He's out on IR, just had surgery, I believe, today or yesterday. So I look for him to be the chain mover. I think they will continue to use him as they figure out the pieces at wide receiver around him. And other than that, we will see. I think his usage truly does continue here. He's playing the Browns this week. I think he fits right into this elite tier pretty easily. You've had Trey McBride, who this past week he had 6 catches for 7 targets and 78 yards. No touchdowns, unfortunately, against the Panthers, but that's the usage that we stick with, especially in the Cardinals offense. Then you also have Brock Bowers, who was a little bit limited by his knee injury, I feel like, against the Chargers, but the Chargers defense is definitely nothing to scoff at. So both of those guys still remain in my tier 1 because they are elite tight ends, as well as their usage is still pretty high. So next, moving forward, we'll be doing my tier 2 tight ends, and you're going to notice some new names here as well. So I have Tyler Warren at number 4 from the Colts, Sam LaPorta at 5. Those guys were the same from last week, but a few new names here: Juwan Johnson, Jake Ferguson, and Zach Ertz. If you watched last week's video, you saw that I put Juwan Johnson at the very end as a bonus tight end, as somebody that I wanted to watch going forward. His usage has continued. He looked good at the end of last year. He looked good in week 1, and he looked good again in week 2. Finished as tight end 3, guys. So 5 catches, 9 targets. Yes, he's part of this Saints offense that doesn't look great, but Spencer Rattler has come out and kind of surprised us. But I feel like his best, rapport that he has with anybody on the team, it seems to be Juwan Johnson. Yes, Chris Olave is the number 1 target there, but Juwan Johnson is right behind him. And so for me, I'm willing to put Juwan Johnson here as my tight end 6 like we have. I think he's going to continue to dazzle us as we go throughout the season. Jake Ferguson at 7, 12 targets last week, guys, and a Cowboys offense they're just going to throw the ball. Yes, Javonte has looked good. I think he's rode a little bit high on the back of some touchdowns, but this offense wants to throw the ball and throw it all over the place. And I think they have the perfect quarterback to do that in Dak. So for me, I'm putting Jake Ferguson in my tier 2 here just because of usage pretty much alone. He's got the production, and I think his rapport with Dak Prescott is going to continue as the season goes on. And then we have Zach Ertz here as my tight end 8. Now, one thing that I do want to mention here, Zach Ertz, in and of his own, is doing well on the season. He's always been kind of that middle of the field guy. They kind of use him to move the chains. And a lot of the times, I think, especially last week, he gets a lot of usage during like garbage time, right? So last week he finished with 6 catches on 8 targets. He did have a touchdown last week that came towards the end of the game, but he finished as the tight end too. So it's not somebody that we can really overlook at this point. He's in my tier 2 for a few reasons. One, he's a veteran that I feel like is kind of touchdown dependent, but the usage is also there. So I'm really kind of unsure, but I don't want him to be left out. The other reason is because of Jaden Daniels, right? So Jaden Daniels, I think he had a knee sprain. He's been held out of practice for the first 2 days this week. And so we really have to see exactly what shakes out with him. If he plays on Sunday, I will leave Zach Ertz here and have no issues with it. But if he doesn't play, I would be a lot more hesitant, and Zach Ertz would definitely move down my board into at least tier 3, maybe tier 4, depending on the start there. So if it's not Jaden Daniels, it'll be Marcus Mariota. That's enough to kind of scare me off of most of the Commanders players anyway. And so I don't really want to deal with a tight end that's having a backup. But like I said, as long as Jaden Daniels plays, he will stay here as my tight end 8 in tier 2. So moving on to tier 3, we've got Travis Kelce as my tight end 9, Kyle Pitts at 10, Harold Fannin at 11, David Njoku at 12, and then Chig Okonkwo. So typically in my first 3 tiers, I try to limit it to 12 players, but I do want to point out that the Titans are playing the Colts this week. I do think at this point, Daniel Jones has looked way better than we could have imagined. And so I think the Titans are going to have to score points if they want to stay with the Colts at this point. The Colts still haven't punted, guys. So I put Chig in this tier just based off of that. I think they're going to have to throw the ball to keep up. But that's not even the guy that I really want to talk about here, right? You've got Travis Kelce, you've got Kyle Pitts. Both of those guys are going to be used in their respective offenses, right? No, neither one looked great last week. Travis Kelce had some respectable numbers. He was 4 catches for 61 yards, so he didn't really kill you there. Kyle Pitts, on the other hand, for the Falcons, he ended up with 4 catches for 37 yards. So that's not great, but his week 1 usage was much better. So to me, I'm not super worried about either of those guys. The big talking point here, as you can see at 11 and 12, are both Harold Fannin and David Njoku. So I may be a little late to the party, but I don't like to overreact off of week 1 alone, right, guys? So I saw that Harold Fannin had a better week 1 than David Njoku, right? And by a pretty wide margin. If I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure Harold Fannin had 7 catches last week. Let me look. I'll get it pulled up here. Yes, he did. He had 7 catches on 9 targets for 63 yards in week 1, whereas David Njoku was like 3 catches for 37 yards, right? This past week, they were kind of 50-50. They really had almost identical stat lines. Harold Fannin had 5 catches for 48 yards. And then David Njoku, I believe, was 4 catches for about 48 or so. It's somewhere in that range. So both of these guys, right? Joe Flacco is throwing the ball 90 times, guys, in 2 weeks. This is insane. I think they will continue to throw the ball until Quinshon Judkins kind of gets acclimated to the system. And even then, they may still continue to throw it. I think their best weapons are all receivers or tight ends at this point. And so I think they know that. That's the only way they're going to be able to score. And yet still, they haven't been able to. Joe Flacco has only thrown 2 touchdowns on the season so far, guys. And yet you're still seeing this kind of usage from Fannin and David Njoku at the tight end position. Now, if you notice, I'm going to pop my graphic back up here. I've got Harold Fannin above David Njoku this week. That's part because of the week 1 start that Fannin had versus Njoku, but then the fact that they also came back this week and had similar production again, that just tells me that Harold Fannin is going to be on the field. He has earned his way through training camp. Obviously, he's got a good rapport with Joe Flacco and the coaching staff to keep him on the field with David Njoku. I don't think either one will necessarily edge the other one out at this point. I think they're both great receiving options, which is why they're both here in my tier 3. However, I do think that it's a situation to monitor, especially if one of the guys goes down. If one of them goes down, you're talking league winning potential here out of the Browns tight ends just based off of usage alone. That's not even including if they actually start scoring the ball. So that's my tier 3 there. Like I said, I had 13 guys in there with Chig at the end. He's had the usage week in and week out. It's just not come with a lot of production. But like I said before, I think they're going to have to score and continue to throw the ball this week against the Colts if they really want to have success. That was my tier 3. Now we're going to move to tier 4. You're going to see a lot of familiar names in here, guys. A lot of veterans, just people that I'm a little bit down on at this time just because of their usage, maybe certain situations that we'll get into and talk about. But I've also got some streamers in here that I really want us to talk about too. So let's pop up our graphic here. You can see I've got quite a few names here, right? We'll run through them real quick. I've got Brenton Strange, TJ Hawkinson, Evan Ingram, Kincaid, Jatavian Sanders, Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith, Noah Fant, Dallas Goddard, Colston Loveland, and Cade Otton. So Strange lives here. He's been kind of a week in, week out streamer for me. I just think his usage in Jacksonville is something that we need to continue to look forward to. He's not going to be this guy that's probably going to finish as your tight end one on a week just based off of the other weapons in the offense. But Brian Thomas Jr. hasn't looked great all year. Travis Hunter, I'm pretty sure he got banged up last week, still didn't have the best week. And then Trevor Lawrence hasn't looked great either, but they continue to spread the ball around. So for me, I'm willing to leave Brenton Strange here at the top of my tier 4. Now, you'll notice I've got TJ Hawkinson and Evan Ingram here back to back. These are guys that I'm just not sold on right now for multiple reasons, right? So we had high hopes for Evan Ingram coming into this Denver offense throughout the offseason. We touted him as maybe Sean Payton's Joker role that he used with Taysom Hill and as the Saints on tight end. And really, he's just not lived up to it. Now, there could be several reasons for that. Maybe that's just not the role he's in. I think a lot of it plays into the fact that he had a calf injury, and I think that kind of limited him last week. He ended up actually behind Adam Troutman at one point. So I think their usage will get better, but I don't want to play him right now unless I absolutely have to. He's got a big enough name. He can make a play that if you need him off of the waivers, you can go pick him up. But these are guys that I wouldn't really expect a whole lot out of. The next guy, right, was TJ Hawkinson. That is more about production. He hasn't really produced anything these first 2 weeks. And now he just lost JJ McCarthy. I believe the report is that it's like 2 to 4 weeks on the ankle. And so for me, like I said before, I don't really want to deal with a backup quarterback and a tight end, right? That was the whole Zach Ertz combo. Now you're looking at TJ Hawkinson having Carson Wentz as starting. I watched Carson Wentz enough as the Colts quarterback. You do not want Carson Wentz as your starting quarterback, but hey, they have to do whatever they have to do. So for me, sure, he can start. I'm not going to put Hawkinson out there as long as I have other options available to me. And so I put them up on the rankings here just because name value, they can make a play, and we know that. But I just see the likelihood of that happening as very low. The one guy that I do want to talk about here as I flash my rankings back up is actually sitting here at number 18, and that is Jatavian Sanders, or JT Sanders. He is the second-year tight end out of Texas. And last week, he had a huge week, guys. He had 7 catches on 9 targets. He ended up with only 54 receiving yards, which isn't great, right? You're thinking like, well, if he didn't have great yardage and he's part of this Panthers offense that is terrible, why is he your stream of the week? I think really and truthfully, when you get down to these guys, you're looking at usage, right? I just mentioned how both Evan Ingram and TJ Hawkinson have been underproducing both as like production, but for multiple reasons. You know, it's been their production of their own, but also maybe some injuries or quarterback concerns. And Jatavian Sanders doesn't really have those concerns. Yes, we have Bryce there. I think we're seeing what Bryce is going to be. At best, he's probably going to be middle of the pack quarterback, which is fine, but he can still get the ball to these guys, right? I mean, obviously, the Panthers almost came back against the Cardinals last week. The Cardinals tried to give that game away, and Jatavian Sanders having 9 targets, that shows me that they want to get him involved. I'm pretty sure he looked great at the end of last year as well. I think he had a neck injury somewhere around week 13, I believe. And so this could be like a second-year breakout potential, right? I'm not saying that right now. If you want to monitor it for another week, you obviously can. But he did finish as the tight end 6 on the week, guys. Looking at it, his waiver ownership right now on sleeper at least is 11%. So he should be available. I'm just telling you now, if he has another good week, you might want to look at a possible waiver pickup for next week. Um, Other than that, guys, I mean, the rest of these names are just people that we can kind of pick and choose, right? You've got Hunter Henry with the Patriots, who he's always had these hit or miss games where he'll have a few targets, maybe catch a touchdown, and he does great for a week and then take a few weeks off. Johnny Smith, as a target of Aaron Rodgers, he's looked okay throughout the year so far. But I'm trying to stay away from that Pittsburgh offense unless your name is Jalen Warren or DK Metcalf at this point. A sneaky name to kind of monitor is Noah Fant. I believe he's actually taken over Mike Gesicki's role as the tight end one. It's just kind of slowly transitioning. And so I think Noah Fant, who was acquired in a trade from Seattle this past offseason, I think he could be one to kind of rise up these boards. Even though Burrow is hurt, we will see, because I think Jake Browning is actually pretty serviceable as a backup, as evidenced by this past week. And then another name, too, that I just kind of want to caveat in there is Dallas Goedert. Obviously, if Dallas Goedert is healthy, he's going to go up these boards. His week one usage was great. I'm pretty sure he had like 7 catches on 7 targets in a Jalen Hurts Eagles-led offense, right? So for me, I'm willing to take the shot on Goddard. If he plays this week, he had a knee injury, so it was kind of hampering him. He didn't play last week against the Chiefs. Let's see what the practice reports say. I might kind of just stash him on the back. That's why he's here at 22 for me. But if he has another good week, or they say, hey, he's going to go, but he's going to be limited this week, and he's on your waivers, I might just pick him up as a stash before the game start on Sunday, just to kind of shake out and let it see how it goes, and then look at starting him possibly next week, depending on your other options. Other than that, though, I mean, did I miss anybody? Do you guys see a name that pops out, should be in a higher tier, a lower tier? Did I miss anybody just in general? Did I miss Mike Gesicki or Pat Fryermuth or any of the other guys that maybe you're looking out for? So let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the Fantasy Sports Network. We're here every week. The mediators will actually be live tonight at 7:30. So if you're here, stop by, and we will see you next week.